Hey guys, how's it going? It's X666X Iron Maiden, and today, we don't show it a lot on this channel, but I'm also a huge gamer. We don't game a lot on the channel like I used to try to. I never really seemed to do that well. But every time there's new news for video games, we did this last year, we covered a bunch of games, and I didn't really get a chance to follow E3 very much. So here I want to try and find a video. We have the 20 best new games of E3 2019 that came out of, this is by Gameranx. They put this out today. So, I think this is so far, because I don't remember if everything's covered so far. I can't remember if today was the last day or if there's more to come. But either way, I wanted to cover some on the channel while E3 was going on. So without further ado, let's jump in and see what games have been announced. I only know a couple so far, so some of them won't be as big of a surprise to me. Like I said, I haven't been following it that well, so there's going to be some, for sure, that are going to surprise me.
We had a great showing of new games at E3 this year. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on Gameranx, the 20 best new games of E3 2019. Just as a quick disclaimer, these are new games, stuff that has been announced before we are not going to discuss. This does include a couple of games that leaked in the build-up to E3, but we're talking about games that were announced at E3. Number 20 is Outriders. Basically something that's vaguely tied to the Marvel universe, at least possibly, keeping in mind that Square Enix has the Marvel license, and the Outriders served Thanos. We don't know if that actually has anything to do with this game. We'll see as more information comes out. It's a quote-unquote dark modern shooter that's a 3-player co-op made by People Can Fly, the developers behind Bulletstorm and Gears of War Judgment. It's a pretty intense looking game, a lot of fire, a lot of guns, and a lot of people who look like they aren't terribly fazed by guns. And a big monster who's scary, but we don't know a lot beyond that. Still gotta say, looks pretty cool though. Number 19 is Contra Rogue Core, which we got a trailer that shows off how over the top this game is probably going to be. It's a twin stick shooter, it's third person, it's not strictly isometric or anything like that, which is nice because it's definitely nice to see more twin stick games giving you a little bit more view of the action.
Those games are so fun.
It does look very, very, very over the top. It's an alien invasion game. You're tasked with taking the aliens down, and that could be really good or really bad. We will see. I'm going to err on the side of positive here. It looks like fun.
It looks
Number
like it would
18
be
is
fun,
Crossfire
even if it's
X,
not that great,
a Western adaptation of the Crossfire online first-person shooter that has taken Asia by storm over the last decade or so. We really only got a cinematic trailer for it, so I can't really give you a lot of gameplay impressions, but it did look at least cool. It is going to have a single-player campaign, and I mean, that's a good start point for me. Number 17 is Spiritfarer, which is kind of being described as if you took the boat from the life to the afterlife and made it into Animal Crossing, which I know sounds utterly absurd, but honestly, from everything I've seen, it looks quite interesting.
Cool,
there is a little bit more of a platformer influence here. It is 2D and hand-painted and very pretty. You end up taking jobs, you take souls from one side of the river to the other, and honestly, it's an interesting and original sounding game that I think is worth a chance.
It's pretty interesting.
I'll definitely be giving it one. Number 16 is Roller
That's an interesting
Champions,
concept,
a game
though.
that looks to dethrone Rocket League to some extent. It's basically a roller derby game. You're on skates, you're trying to score points, you're knocking other people down. And from everything that I've seen, it looks surprisingly interesting. It does in a lot of respects feel like something that could very much sort of take on the audience of a Rocket League, but it's a totally different game. It's fast, it's pretty, there's a lot of cool animations in this, and I really want to play it. I haven't had the opportunity to. Those who have actually say it's pretty darn good, so I'm definitely looking forward to Roller Champions. Number 15 is No More Heroes 3, which if you are familiar with the previous games, it's a very quirky assassin game that's filled with absurdity.
I've only heard about
There's
this game. I've
probably
never
no better
seen
way
any
to
of
put it
the
than that.
other
What we've seen in the trailer here is some power armor. We've seen kind of a katana lightsaber thing, and in every way it looks as absurd as the previous games, which we haven't seen one since 2010, at least of the core actual games, and it will be cool to jump back into Travis Touchdown's world. Coming in at 14, Gods and Monsters is like Greek Zelda. And that's obviously not how they're marketing it. I've heard the words innovative used while describing, and, well, maybe kind of Zelda. That's not bad though. I'm not angry about that. Breath of the Wild is a great game. Honestly, I'd like to see more people actually take into account the things that Breath of the Wild does. So when we get the people who made Assassin's Creed Odyssey to be making a clearly inspired by Zelda, open world, Zelda-ish looking game, I'm definitely not mad. I'm intrigued. I'm excited. I want to play it. Coming in at 13,
Yeah,
Ghostwire
that one I
Tokyo
just heard about today,
is
and
a
I
pretty
am
intense,
interested about it.
fairly innovative-looking concept in which people are disappearing in a dystopian city. Obviously, it's an exaggerated Tokyo, and we see some ties to various myths, and places you in a position to unravel conspiracies and take on the occult. I really like the game's tagline, "Don't fear the unknown, attack it." I think it's like, alright, I don't know even what it specifically means by attack it. It may just mean take it on, don't be afraid of it, go in, whatever. I think that's a very interesting perspective, especially given how creepy the trailer actually is. Given it comes from Shinji Mikami, the famed Resident Evil visionary, and Akumi Nakamura, who
really
has the kind of enthusiasm for this project you would want, I'm there. I can't wait to play this. I think it's going to be unique. And at number 12, Pistol Whip is a VR game that makes me go, hey, maybe VR games could be very cool. Really quickly, the developers of this game say the words John Wick about 400 times in their announcement video, and I know exactly why. Because it is a rhythm/shooting game that seems a lot like the club scene in the original John Wick as a rhythm game. They talk very specifically about how it's about reaction time, quick accuracy, and trying to get you to feel as though you are an action hero in that type of a situation.
That's cool.
It looks amazing. As somebody who needs a little bit more selling on VR games, this was probably the first VR game that I've just immediately been like, yes, that's for me. I'm really looking forward to getting into Pistol Whip. And at 11,
That's
Tales
interesting,
of Arise
because
is obviously the newest Tales
cool
game.
concept.
It is a
Might get boring
JRPG,
quick,
and it
though.
looks very nice. Tales of Berseria came out in 2017. It's a great game. If you haven't played it, you should. And Tales of Arise looks to be just basically building on that. Basically what you would want from a JRPG. The intent apparently is to update the combat
played
system,
Tales of
but
games,
it sounds
so
like the story has to
not
do with
Berseria.
a large
Haven't played
entity
the last
ruling
two.
over a planet, stripping
Symphonia,
people of
I
their
played,
dignity,
like,
resources,
2
and
full
freedom.
gameplay
We all know what we're
playthroughs
coming to
of it now.
JRPGs for, and it sounds like exactly what I might want. I love the Tales series. Give me more of the Tales series. Coming in at number 10, Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga is, of course, the Lego Star Wars, which is not the most serious retelling of the Star Wars movies. Here, it's going to be the entire 9-film Skywalker saga, which makes me very intrigued. It obviously won't be coming out before the final film of that saga, so obviously it's not going to spoil anything for anybody, but still, that's a clever idea. Saying, hey, we're going to do it for all the movies. You're going to buy one game, you're going to play through all the movies in signature Lego Star Wars style. I'm there. I like Lego Star Wars. It's fun. It's goofy. It's silly. It's a good release, and it's still Star Wars. Coming in at number 9, Rainbow Six Quarantine kinda has the looks of a more modern Aliens concept, with more of like a blob type, disease type, probably zombie type situation going on. It's a 3-player co-op shooter, and that to me sounds very interesting given it is a Rainbow Six title. It's most likely taking where they went with Outbreak and going with that. I think that's good. That's something I want. I think that concept could work very good as a co-op shooter, but we'll also have to wait to find out more because they were very vague about this game. And at number 8, Carry On is a game that they're calling a reverse horror game for the reason that you play as the monster rather than the people trying to get away from the monster. The premise is you, the monster, are imprisoned in a facility, you're being studied, and you escape. In a way, it looks very much like a Metroidvania to me, as well as kind of a physics puzzle platformer, but like much more violent, much more disturbing in its animation, and honestly really, really good. To me, looking at this just looks like such a great idea. It's not impossible to think of, what if you were the monster? Of course, but for the most part, that type of game isn't really done often, or, well,
which is true.
Evolve comes to mind. But making it as what looks like a Metroidvania, or at least close to it,
funny,
as well as really
Evolve.
smooth looking, I think Carry On is going to be a winner, and I cannot wait to get my hands on it. Number 7 is Bleeding Edge, which at the moment we're looking at what seems to kind of be a hero shooter in the vein of Overwatch, albeit very punk-oriented and a lot more chaotic. The reason for this is a melee-oriented game, which is a very different prospect than Overwatch. Now, we've seen some pretty cool melee games lately, and this comes to us from Ninja Theory, the developers of Hellblade, which is nothing like this. They claim it's been in development a number of years, but I don't know. I don't know exactly what to make of it just yet. It looks cool, though, I'll say that. If the gameplay is actually enjoyable by the time the game comes out, I think it'll probably be a big thing because, again, it looks cool, and I like the idea of a melee Overwatch.
No, that'll make sense.
It'll
be cool because it'll be something new, right?
So
but it'll still be that same concept.
Deathloop is a first-person action game coming to you from the creators of Dishonored, which, if you know me and you know my proclivity towards the Dishonored franchise, I'm ready for more from Arcane. Thanks for stepping in and announcing something, guys. Deathloop is about two quote-unquote extraordinary assassins who clearly cannot be killed. Like from the trailer, they're killing each other and then they reappear and then they fight again. And we don't know exactly what that means, but it looks cool as hell. And it's an Arcane game, so we can assume that there's some kind of supernatural element to it. I can't wait. Deathloop looks awesome. Coming in at number 5, Elden Ring, which is a collaboration between From Software, meaning Hidetaka Miyazaki, and George R.R. Martin of A Song in Ice and Fire / Game of Thrones fame. Now, what we've seen of it is very minimal, and I think you'll probably hear me say that a lot, but I do have to say I think it has the look, so to speak. Obviously, I mean the From Software look. It goes a little bit more high fantasy, and from what we've heard so far, it's going to be more like Dark Souls and Sekiro, and it's going to be bigger than anything they've done before. Coming in at number 4, Blair Witch is definitely something different. I mean, if there was ever a movie that was kind of made in a perfect manner to be a video game, it's Blair Witch. And for whatever reason, we never really got any attempts to adapt it. Blair Witch being a kind of low-budget horror movie that scared the pants off a lot of people because they thought it was real. There had not really been a lot of found footage movies up until that point, and for whatever reason, nobody's really done like a full-blown, hey, I'm gonna attempt to make this movie, but as a game. In that respect, this looks very promising. They've really nailed quite a feel from the trailer that I think is very conducive to what that game would be, and I really look forward to finding out more about it. And at number 3, Baldur's Gate 3 is a sequel to the long-thought-dead series, Baldur's Gate, of course, and in truth, we've seen a very minimal amount of this game. We've just got a cinematic trailer, we just know that it exists. The devs were on stage, they talked a little bit, not a lot. I think we are all excited to know that the developers of Divinity Original Sin 2 are making the next Baldur's Gate game. I mean, that's a big piece of information, but beyond that, we have lots of questions. We saw no gameplay, we got no real specifics, but hey, we know we're going to get Baldur's Gate 3 before Half-Life 3, right? That's a pretty interesting fact. And at number 2, Watch Dogs Legion is an ambitious jump in the Watch Dogs series. Obviously, when the original came out, there were certain expectations, and they didn't quite manage it, but Watch Dogs 2, on the other hand, was a huge jump. Now, rather than rest on the laurels, it looks very much like they're attempting to do even more. That's great, because Watch Dogs 2 is a significantly better game than Watch Dogs 1. In a lot of ways, they do attempt to continue the path they were on with Watch Dogs 2, but they're adding things like a recruitment system, an old lady you can play as, which I'm not going to complain about, that's hilarious. And it seems like with Watch Dogs 2, they delivered on the promise of Grand Hack Auto, and it seems like they're expanding. I'm excited to see what they do with it. It's in London, it's very different setting-wise, and looks cool to me. And finally, number 1, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. Like, let's just go ahead and be very frank here. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is a great game. It's a game that sometimes takes a little bit of time to warm up to because it is very restrictive, very limiting, and can be pretty harsh regarding your weapons. But once you get into it, it's amazing. And seeing it gone and kind of not having things to do in it anymore was kind of sad in a way. Lo and behold, Nintendo's like, hey, we're gonna give you more of that. All right, Nintendo, I'm there for it. Which of these games are
That's
you
gonna be
most
big.
interested in? What shows the most potential? What do you think will be the coolest when it
So
actually
there's like a
comes out?
decent amount.
Leave us a
About half
comment,
of them
let
I
us
could
know
care
what you
less
think.
about.
And if you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week, and the best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. So click the subscribe button and the notification bell. As always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero, and we'll see you next time right here on Gameranx.
All right, so there's so many of these that seem so interesting. I mean, like, I did play the first Watch Dogs, and I do agree completely that it was a little bit too ambitious. There's too many things that you would have to do to be able to do it, and the problem was that it felt like it didn't flow very well. You know, like there's just so many things and too many buttons, and you just couldn't do things easily. I heard the second one was better. I don't have the second one, unfortunately, but I like the concept of putting it more into the future, giving even more options, and hopefully taking in stuff from the second one to make it run a little bit better. Some of the other cool games, like some of them that I didn't really care about, like Baldur's Gate, there's never really been a thing I got into. Still not really interested by just that cinematic trailer. Legend of Zelda is interesting. I just don't have the systems to play it. I don't have a Switch. I wish I did. There's so many good games. Super Smash Brothers is a really fun game that I really enjoy playing, and it's just they're still so expensive to buy a Switch, so I can't buy one, which is super unfortunate. Some of the other things that were sticking out in this one, there's so many. The thing with E3 is there's so many games, and you try to remember all the games that are coming out when they're shown to you, and there's so many you just end up waiting until they actually come out because you forget about some of them. But again, there's only about... There was the one with people just disappearing. I can't remember the name of it there. People just disappearing. It seemed to be some weird... Excuse me, guys. Sorry. There seems to be some weird entities that are making them disappear, and you have to fight them and defeat them. That looked interesting. There was the one where you're playing the evil creature that's trapped inside like a containment place or some scientific place, and you had to kill people. That actually stands out a lot to me. I would really be interested in playing that, especially if it comes out on PC, because I didn't really look to see if it was available. It only shows up for a few seconds, so I kind of missed it. The Overwatch melee style one actually might interest me. You know, like, it means you have to get up close and personal all the time to use your special abilities and all that, and that's interesting to me. I like that idea because it's keeping with something that's popular right now, but you're still bringing in a new element by just making it just melee instead of, you know, some of these games you have like maybe one person who's just melee or something like that. Mostly Overwatch is all long range. Excuse me again, guys. Sorry. A mixture of long range and melee, but just melee, and with that style of game where it was like pretty cartoony. It kind of had like the cartoony feel of almost like Fortnite design of drawing, but then with the Overwatch element. But it's all punk oriented, which is super cool too. Is it's a fun design. Kind of reminds you of like Borderlands a little bit too. And then some of the other big games they were talking about that weren't shown here that have been announced, like obviously Cyberpunk. We got more information. We know Keanu Reeves is going to be in it. That's a huge thing. Borderlands 3, I'm sure, had something. I wouldn't be surprised if they're showing something that comes out this year, so they must have shown something about it. But I haven't seen anything yet. What else was there? That's all I can remember at this time, anyway. But again, E3 is always so huge and all this stuff, you know, so... Like this year, we got all these games, and then they're all announcing the new consoles that are coming within a year or two. Like all these things coming. Everything's coming with ray tracing, which is really cool. I had no idea what it was until I did some research today, actually, and I'm all for it. If you don't know what ray tracing is, go look into it. Just do a Wikipedia search right quick. It quickly explains kind of what it is. If you know, a little bit about technology with computers and consoles, you'll understand it. You might have a hard time if you're unaware of hardware and stuff like that. But basically, it's just a better way. It makes it super easy to give for lighting options. So, for instance, one of the image pictures shows the lighting also shows the reflections off of items too. Like, so when lightning hits something, there's reflections and stuff that happens too. And this ray tracing apparently makes it super easy. At least one element of ray tracing makes it super easy to be able to get that effect, and looks way more realistic because of this fact. So it really puts a jump forward for that kind of stuff. Oh, I know the other thing. Oh, okay. I remember Microsoft showed us Microsoft Flight Simulator, the new one coming. Looks so realistic. That's one of the other games that was announced that really caught my eye. I've never really played Flight Simulator. I've watched other people play it. I know there's Air Force Proud 95. That is like the channel to go to for that kind of stuff. I'm curious if he'll make a video on this at all, but it looks amazing. It looks so realistic, it's not even funny. Like, everything looks real. The airplanes, you can still tell it's a game, but some of the actual locations looks real. Even though the airplanes themselves you can still tell they're in a game, but they are super realistic. We're not there yet where you can't tell it's a game, but the landscape does look real, which is just whoa, mind-blowing. So anyway, hopefully this was as fun for you guys as it was for me to go over some of these things. It's basically where I'm at on the video gaming thing right now. I'm only doing one video game on the E3 thing, so tried to cover as much as I could in just a shorter video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to see more from me if you haven't already. And as always, you guys have a good one. I'll catch you later.